Some discoveries emerge like a faint whisper echoing across the cosmos, subtle and almost imperceptible. Others arrive like a thunderclap, shaking the foundations of science with deafening urgency. For centuries, humanity assumed our solar system was a relatively quiet corner of the galaxy, a peaceful haven drifting among predictable orbits and lifeless rocks. That illusion was shattered with the arrival of Oumuamua. Now, years later, the James Webb Space Telescope has detected something even more disturbing. An object far larger, much faster, and shockingly precise. It has been designated 3I Atlas. According to internal analyses leaked from Webb's early scans, Atlas not only travels along a trajectory that defies chance, but also displays behaviors no natural object should exhibit. It resembles a comet in certain aspects, yet its motion is more akin to that of a probe. It reflects sunlight like ice, yet emits structured radiation patterns far too ordered to be accidental. In essence, 3I Atlas is beginning to appear less like a random celestial body and more like a surveillance device, a disguised artificial visitor masquerading as a comet. And the most alarming fact, it is moving directly toward the heart of our solar system with a precision that has left scientists without words. But is this truly only the second interstellar visitor we've ever encountered? Or is it something far more sinister? When astronomers at the Vera C. Rubin Observatory first noticed the faint, accelerating smear of Atlas against the stellar backdrop, they assumed it was simply another long-period comet, a harmless, icy traveler from the distant Oort cloud. Within hours, that assumption disintegrated. Its trajectory was unlike anything cataloged before. Instead of the chaotic curves expected from gravity-bound rocks, this body traced a narrow, deliberate path, cutting directly through the inner solar system. Its velocity, more than 210,000 kilometers per hour above escape speed, was undeniable proof that it had come from beyond the sun's gravitational grasp. Immediately, Atlas entered one of the rarest categories in astronomy, only the third interstellar object ever detected. But the real alarm sounded when orbital simulations revealed something even more unsettling. Atlas would pass close to several planets at distances ideal for potential data collection: Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and then slingshot around the sun, using its energy to plunge deeper into the system. Every maneuver, every alignment seemed calculated. It was not incidental. It was not chaotic. It resembled the trajectory of a spacecraft on a mission. Scientists recalculated its path countless times. The probability that such a trajectory could occur naturally? Less than 0.01%. Even more disturbing was the fact that Atlas's closest approach to Earth would occur while our planet was hidden behind the sun, rendering it invisible to ground-based telescopes, as if it had deliberately chosen not to be seen. After the mysterious acceleration and strange characteristics of Oumuamua, NASA resolved to be prepared for the next interstellar arrival. So as soon as Atlas entered the solar system, the James Webb Space Telescope was quietly reassigned to observe it directly. Webb trained its infrared spectrometers on the object, attempting to decipher its composition. What it discovered left the scientific team stunned. At first glance, Atlas's spectral signature resembled that of carbon-rich comets: dark, reflective, icy surfaces. But hidden beneath were anomalies too glaring to ignore. faint, rhythmic radiation pulses repeated with structured regularity. Thermal patterns made no sense in relation to solar heating or rotational dynamics. It was as if heat were being generated and distributed intentionally. Microscopic reflections hinted at smooth geometric surfaces beneath a dusty coating. Not definitive evidence of engineering, but also not evidence of randomness. The data were forwarded to a restricted planetary defense group, and for the first time since Oumuamua, internal memos began using words like intentional, artificial, and, most disturbingly, surveillance. To understand NASA's growing unease, one must revisit the events of 2017. Oumuamua, the first confirmed interstellar object, entered our system without warning. It rotated strangely, accelerated without signs of gas release, reflected sunlight in odd ways, and then disappeared as quickly as it arrived. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb suggested that Oumuamua might have been a fragment of alien technology, perhaps a solar sail or a probe designed to mimic natural bodies. His theory was ridiculed at the time, but now, with Atlas, many of those dismissive voices have gone quiet. This new visitor is not only 7 times larger than Oumuamua, it appears far more sophisticated in its disguise. While Oumuamua passed relatively close to Earth, allowing for brief observation, Atlas hides behind the sun, evades terrestrial detection, and leaves only intermittent traces for space telescopes. It spins in a rhythm that reduces thermal detection, avoids gravitational instabilities, and even slows slightly as it approaches regions of intense radiation, something no known comet or asteroid has ever done. In every respect, Atlas represents an evolutionary leap beyond Oumuamua. Some theorists now believe that Oumuamua was only the reconnaissance stage, a preliminary scout. Atlas, they argue, is the main event. Behind closed doors, whispers circulate of a chilling concept, the observer hypothesis. It suggests that Atlas is not a comet, nor even a conventional probe, but a sentinel, an interstellar device built for long-term observation, launched by an unknown intelligence, capable of monitoring solar systems for millennia. Its focus on Earth, its maneuvers to hide behind the sun, its flawless trajectory, none of these would be the result of chance, but of programming. Imagine a cosmic black box, or worse, a surveillance drone, designed to record, analyze, and transmit data to an origin point light years away. Perhaps it is not only watching, perhaps it is also listening to our radio leakage, our satellite traffic, our reaction. What if Atlas isn't here to explore it all, but to measure how aware we are of its presence? A cosmic intelligence test. And what if Earth has just realized it is being watched, or even judged? As scientists struggled to interpret the anomalies, something happened that froze their analyses and escalated the situation to near crisis in major astrophysical institutions. The Deep Space Network, a global array of massive antennas used to communicate with distant spacecraft, detected a faint, nearly imperceptible signal coming from Atlas's direction. It was narrowband, unmodulated, pulsing at a frequency eerily similar to Earth's earliest radar transmissions. What shocked analysts was the regularity of the pulses. This was not continuous emission nor random noise, but structured, precise spacing. Within hours, the message had been routed to multiple space agencies under strict secrecy protocols. Observatories were quietly redirected to Atlas. Publicly, authorities dismissed the event as natural interference. Yet leaked documents revealed the signal repeated 3 times, then ceased abruptly, like a test transmission. A handshake. Most telescopes rely on visible light, but Webb's true strength lies in the infrared, capable of detecting faint thermal emissions invisible to the human eye. This ability became crucial as Atlas crossed a colder region of space just beyond Mars. Webb's scans revealed evidence that could not be reconciled with a natural object. Persistent angular shadows emerged, linear thermal structures, unlike the irregular heat signatures of typical comets. It was as though Atlas had panels, or fins, geometric surfaces absorbing and re-emitting energy in impossible ways. More startling still, Webb detected a corridor of warmth, regularly spaced particles forming a heat trail like propulsion exhaust. These findings were never released to the public. Instead, agencies issued vague alerts about unexpected cometary activity and anomalous interstellar properties. But for independent astronomers capable of reading the data, Atlas looked built. Weeks of tracking suggested Atlas would pass through a narrow corridor between Earth and the Sun, a path that would render it nearly undetectable to ground-based telescopes. But then, without warning, Atlas changed course. It was not a gravitational push, nor a random drift. It was a course correction, subtle, precise, unmistakable, and its new trajectory pointed toward Earth. Not in a collision path, but close enough to allow radar detection and possibly even atmospheric influence. Scientists calculated that the required change in velocity could not be explained by outgassing or gravity alone. Something, or someone, had propelled Atlas. If it was maneuvering, then it was not drifting. It was navigating. Sources within NASA, ESA, and JAXA leaked word of an emergency symposium conducted via encrypted satellite link. The topic, Atlas. More specifically, how to prepare for public reaction if the object displayed irrefutable signs of artificial construction, or worse, of intentional surveillance. According to leaks, representatives debated the psychological consequences of confirming an intelligent interstellar visitor. They considered the risk of social instability, the possibility of military responses, and whether to disclose or conceal the findings. Some argued for transparency, claiming the public had the right to know. Others feared mass panic, a surge in conspiracy theories, and a collapse of trust in institutions. The most unsettling detail: the meeting occurred before Atlas had even reached its closest approach, suggesting that officials knew, or at least suspected, far more than they had admitted. Comparisons between Atlas and Oumuamua revealed something chilling. Atlas seemed to retrace the same cosmic corridor, almost as if mirroring Oumuamua's path in reverse. By comparing infrared telemetry and light curves from Oumuamua with Atlas's data, scientists found overlapping patterns, hinting at a shared origin, or perhaps evidence that both were components of a larger system still out there, waiting. If Oumuamua left behind only questions, Atlas appeared to be delivering an answer. And that answer was anything but reassuring. Then came the blackout. One of Webb's deep field sectors abruptly went offline. Not from mechanical failure. Data from that region simply stopped arriving. NASA blamed sensor calibration, but engineers privately described it as a blackout anomaly. neighboring sectors continued to deliver data, but anything aimed at Atlas went unreadable. Just before the blackout, Webb had recorded a brief reflective flash, followed by a sharp infrared spike. To seasoned analysts, it looked like a deliberate energy pulse. Then silence, as if Atlas had cloaked itself or directly interfered with Webb's instruments. This raised a terrifying possibility. If Atlas could manipulate our sensors, what else might it be capable of? Today, a growing consensus among astrophysicists is that Atlas will make its closest approach to Earth in a matter of weeks. Unlike Oumuamua, which was already fleeing when it was discovered, Atlas is approaching and decelerating. Internal memos suggest this could mark the first intentional close encounter with an interstellar object. Amateur astronomers have reported unusual flickering inconsistent with rotational periods, unexplained variations in velocity, and, most unsettling, a growing halo of particles orbiting Atlas like a debris field, or perhaps a protective shield. Some interpret this as natural fragmentation. Others believe it is a controlled release of material, as if something inside were preparing to emerge. Either way, the clock is ticking. In closed academic circles, a new hypothesis is spreading quickly. What if Atlas is not an explorer, not a relic, not even a message? What if it is a sentinel, a seed, a machine programmed to awaken when certain conditions are met, such as the presence of intelligent life or detection by specific wavelengths? The theory gained traction when Atlas began responding not only to gravity, but to human observation. When our telescopes focused infrared beams on it, its behavior shifted. When radar pings increased, its response pulses intensified. Some researchers have begun to call it the mirror, because it does not simply drift, it responds, it reflects. And as it nears Earth with deliberate precision, humanity faces a choice: observe, engage, or prepare. Further Webb scans revealed something even more shocking. The reflected light from Atlas was not consistent. Analysis revealed a modulation pattern, a wave code, not random, not chaotic, but ordered, structured. A kind of photonic Morse code embedded within its reflective surface, triggered by our own emissions. NASA has remained silent, but leaked spectrograph data show that the patterns align with some of humanity's earliest deep space transmissions. Echoes return to us, slightly altered, as if to say, "We heard you," or perhaps, "We understood." At the South Pole Neutrino Observatory, astrophysicists reconstructed Atlas's orbital path using isotopic data from ancient ice cores. They found subtle variations in cosmic particle flux, dating back thousands of years, that matched Atlas's current trajectory. This suggests Atlas may have been here before, or that another object just like it traced this very path long ago, unnoticed by ancient civilizations. Comparative mythologists have even pointed to strange similarities between Atlas's projected arrival and recurring celestial omens recorded by the Mayans, Babylonians, and Vedic cultures. If humanity has seen such objects before, interpreting them as gods or portents, then Atlas is not new at all. It may be returning. Meanwhile, confidential NASA memos indicate the quiet activation of something called Protocol Shadow, a contingency plan unused since the Cold War. It involves restricting telescope access, encrypting communications between observatories, and even preparing for long-range radio silence if Atlas crosses certain thresholds. The most disturbing aspect is that the protocol does not only cover what to do if Atlas nears Earth, it also outlines procedures for what to do if Atlas responds, if it sends a clear signal, if it decelerates beyond a critical point, or if it releases anything. This is not preparation for exploration. It is preparation for an encounter. Then came the discovery that Atlas was not alone. Webb detected a second object trailing behind, smaller, fainter, but making subtle course corrections, clearly coordinated. Scientists nicknamed it Echo. At times, Echo vanished completely from infrared, reappearing in other sectors as if jumping through light. Many now believe Atlas is not an isolated anomaly, but the vanguard of a formation, a network, a mission. And that means Earth has ceased to be a passive observer in the universe. As Atlas advanced, strange distortions appeared. Agencies across the world reported signal delays, gravitational lensing in improbable places, and even anomalous changes in nearby asteroids. One report described a small asteroid whose orbit shifted after passing close to Atlas, not from gravity, but from what physicists described as a localized ripple in space-time. Webb even recorded faint oscillations in the cosmic microwave background during Atlas observations, something thought impossible except near extreme phenomena like black holes. But Atlas is not a black hole. It is controlled. It is using technologies we do not yet understand. One might expect SETI to be flooded with data from such an extraordinary object. Yet since Webb's revelations, SETI has gone quiet. Public updates ceased. Social media accounts went inactive. At a recent panel, one director simply stated, "No comment on 3I Atlas at this time." Insiders claim SETI's core processing units have been redirected to encrypted federal projects. Stranger still, a private Australian radio network reported detecting pulses bouncing back from Atlas. But when they attempted to replicate the detection, the echoes were gone. Not weakened, gone, as if the object had noticed the test and shut down the reply. By now, Atlas was expected to follow a standard gravitational curve. Instead, it executed a deliberate deviation. It corrected, adjusted, piloted. More than that, orbital models revealed a Fibonacci sequence in its deceleration pattern, a rhythm found in nature, in music, even in DNA. Why would an interstellar object follow such a familiar mathematical cadence? Coincidence, imitation, or communication? If it is the latter, then Atlas is not merely an object. It is a mind, a structure that navigates with purpose and composes its movement like a dancer across the silence of space, guided by a rhythm only it can hear. With each new revelation, one truth becomes clearer. The implications of Atlas stretch far beyond astronomy. Philosophers, theologians, cultural thinkers are entering the debate. Governments are quietly assembling panels to assess not just the scientific risks, but the psychological ones. If Atlas is confirmed to be intelligent, or worse, an ancient artificial intelligence that predates us by millennia, it could unravel belief systems, destabilize geopolitics, and plunge societies into existential crisis. Some claim we are approaching a singularity of consciousness, where the truth itself could be more dangerous than the object. The realization that we are being watched or judged by something older and more advanced may redefine what it means to be human. Not in a century, not in a decade, but right now. The James Webb Space Telescope, once celebrated as our window into the dawn of the universe, has become something far more unsettling. A mirror. A mirror reflecting not just what lies beyond, but truths we were never ready to face. Atlas is no longer a mystery waiting to be solved. It is a message we are deciphering too late. It did not stumble into our system. It followed a map. It did not appear by chance. It waited for us to look. And now, with each course correction, each coded flash, each chilling silence after our questions, the truth is inescapable. We did not find Atlas. Atlas found us. We are not alone. Not in the poetic sense of dreamers gazing at the stars, but in the stark reality that ancient civilizations may have whispered before their skies were torn open. Atlas may be a probe, a scout, a warning. But above all, it is aware. And the most terrifying question is not what it is, but what comes after. Because if Atlas is only the first, then whoever built it is the next. So the next time you lift your eyes to the night sky, remember, not everything that shines in the dark is a star. Sometimes it is an eye-watching, waiting, calculating,